Hi everyone, my name is Samira and welcome to our presentation. My name is Samira Dautovic and I come from Macquarie University Research Services where I work as post-award and reporting manager. And this is my colleague Fiona Burton, and she just recently changed her title, so I hope I'll get this right. So interim university librarian. So today we are going to share with you our interactions with Pure and also how we embedded Pure into our research environment. But before we start with that, I'll just share a few statistics about Macquarie University, especially for our international colleagues. So you can see on this beautiful map, which by the way is inspired by dot painting from our indigenous population. So they use this technique to present their life and so on. So on this map you can see this red dot, and that's Macquarie University based in Sydney. So by Australian standards we are a medium-sized university. We have a large group of 8 universities, so we come 9 in various benchmarking rankings and so on. So we have about 33,000 FTE students per year. We have about 1,500 HDR enrollments per year and 576 completions, which is quite good for medium-sized university. I think by these statistics we are second in the country. So we also have 800 applications, funding applications, and associated awards with that. So at this point I can say that for Pure we use all components. We use applications, awards, projects, as well as publications as well. So our biggest funders are Australian Research Council and also National Health and Medical Research Councils. But we also have a number of internal schemes that we run at Macquarie University as well. So in 2015 we decided to look into our systems, and primarily that was driven by our biggest national reporting called ERA, which stands for Excellence in Research in Australia. So we needed ERA Pure module to submit that XML submission to the government. So we thought this is a good time, 2015, we have 3 years before the submission, so to look into our systems and actually try to find the best systems for activities. And I think that's one important point. We didn't really look into one system, but we looked into all functions in the research management at Macquarie University. So that's how we came about to think about Research Hub. We wanted to have one place or the hub for academics to be able to go and actually not to think which system do I need to use, but to think, okay, what do I need to do? Do I need to apply for grants? Do I need to accept funding? Do I need to apply for ethics, biosafety, and other compliance requirements? Or any other part of this life cycle, whether it's legal or any other issue. So I think logically Pure came to be the first system because usually academics start with an idea which gets developed and becomes an application and so on. So it made sense for us to go with Pure and then look into other systems to be attached to Pure. So this is a technical diagram that shows where Pure fit technically at Macquarie University. So on the left-hand side, you can see Macquarie legacy systems and some of the systems that are still in use. So you can see here that we have HRIS, which is our human resource system. We have AMOS, which is our student system, and Finance One, which are used to feed the data to Pure. And also we have a reverse feed from Pure to Finance One. Actually, this is something Macquarie developed ourselves, so it wasn't part of Pure package, but we developed this so that we can take the data from Pure and send to Finance One to feed and then get the account back into the award. Then we have in the middle a few processes that we use, which is ERA submission processes. and some other processes that actually interact between Pure and our data bank. So our data bank is actually a data warehouse where we store all information from all the systems that we use. So the new systems are on the right-hand side, and you can see ServiceNow, for example. I think it's an international package which we use for online forms. So, for example, ServiceNow would store online forms for our internal applications. So academics will go into ServiceNow and populate internal grant application. Then it will be sent through various channels to DataBank, and from DataBank it will be fed to Pure. Similarly, we are in the process of implementing contract system, which is called ONIT, and I think we are the first in Australia. It's actually an American package, so we are hoping to go live with this one in December. So that system will interact with Pure as soon as an award is given in Pure or created in Pure. It will send information to ONIT, and a contract application will be open with associated details. So we tried to reuse the data and minimize data entry. So at any point, if you enter the data once, it should either go to Pure or from Pure, so that academics don't spend too much time on administration. And I think that was our guide, to make sure that academics do what they do best, and that's research. You don't actually want academics in systems, and you don't want them very long in any of these systems, because that's what they don't want to. So at this point, I'll just hand over to Fiona. She will explain a little bit more about Pure in detail, and then I'll come back later to talk about a few other things as well.
Okay, so our Pure project started in about June 2016. So it was actually a cross-university project where we had research services, library, a central IT, the faculties, higher degree research office, human resources. So it was a cross-university project, and that was key to the success of the project. There was a lot of work starting up about the server configuration, development test servers. So we're on a production server, which is now, it's hosted in Singapore. We also are using the patron feeds coming from our data bank, which is the University People database, with data from our HR and our student feeds. So that actually helped us clean up a lot of data issues, but we had all the records in one place in Pure. We also had to work out what sort of records would we actually put into Pure, what type of staff, students, would we put in all researchers, professional staff. So we also have a lot of honorary staff, and so again they came through. So it also really helped and it was very public when this data went in, that there were duplicate people that had 2 records in the system, things like that. So we also looked at loading in our postgraduate students, because again, it's a key. We are trying to promote the researchers, the student researchers, and have them have profiles. So in Australia, we've actually talked to most of our other colleagues, and they mostly don't have profiles for the postgraduate students, but that's one of our key wishes for the system. So research outputs were the first module that we were going live with. So we actually had to do a lot of work around what templates we'd use, what metadata. It was a decision made that we would use the profile refinement service to import the Scopus data, and that brought in about 65,000 records. A lot of it were older records that we hadn't known about in our previous system. But then we also brought in about 35,000 legacy data records that we imported from our old system into Pure. We then turned on Scopus harvesting and were activated for current researchers. And that process is now being administered by library and research services. Then we activated activities. So the researcher will go in and put in activities. They'll put in press, they'll put in media things. And that's actually been, people have gone in and done it themselves, and that's actually been really quite successful. So what we did was the portal went live in May 2017. So we'd given people about 2 months beforehand where they could actually go into the back end of Pure and look to see if their publications were in correctly. And was that, and then when they said there were all these ones that somehow hadn't been in there, and there were a few funnies where it wasn't the right person. But we gave them 2 months to go in and have a look. And then we went live with the portal, the profiles for the researchers. And we've also encouraged the researchers to go in and add more information about their profile, because this is their key profile for the university, for them appearing at Macquarie. So we had there were cross research workshops where library or research services attended. There were faculty drop-in days, things like that. We really tried to engage the researchers because this was the key system. It was how they were going to appear on the website, and we wanted them to be engaged. We then started working on the applications and awards, and we migrated 10,000 awards and applications were migrated from the legacy system, with non-partnership grants were live in March 2018, and then partnership grants were live from May 2018. So I'm not expecting you to see the detail, but this is just to show you the before Pure outputs process. So it was managed by the library and research services. So basically the library harvested the publications in from Scopus, Web of Science, PubMed. We did the metadata checking. We categorised them according to classification schemes required for our government reporting schemes, and worked through them. We attached PDFs, checked embargoes, things like that. At times, so we did our work, then the faculty administrators had to come in and check some of the work. It was mostly to do with how the people appeared in the previous systems. So they didn't really check the metadata, but they were checking codings of department affiliations and things like that. And then the research services would pick up and check the final category. So you can see from the map that it took a while. There were a number of processes. So that was the before process. And now this is our current process. So much cleaner, much quicker. So, and what happens is it really starts with the researcher. The researcher is the one that they are responsible for claiming their publication from Scopus and or Web of Science. We've turned on automated searching for Scopus, and we're turning it on a little bit for Web of Science. Because of the duplicates it brings in, we haven't said we allow people to turn it on, but we're not mandating it. So, but again, the researcher, we get them to claim their publication. If the publication hasn't come in from Scopus, book chapters, things like that, we actually ask them to go in and put it in themselves. And people are actually doing it. They're really engaged with the system. This was the part that we were really concerned about, because previous system, we'd done it for them. And again, we needed them to switch their behaviour. So they are doing it. Once it is claimed in the system, it is then actually in the validation queue, which the library will go through and check the metadata, add things like the PDFs, check embargoes, check affiliations of people, and do the work associated with. So then we will actually push it through, we will categorise it, and then it can go live on the portal. And then once it's live on the portal, the research services can come back through later and check the categorisation for the government reporting. So occasionally we've had researchers who, in the part of this learning process, saying, I've got 2 new articles, can you put them through into Pure? And we go back and say, this is, please do it yourself. For new researchers, when they come into the university, we will actually work with them on how to get their publications in, because we really don't want to have, a new researcher come in and key in 300 publications. But some of them just do it anyway. The first time we know this person's arrived is we get, lots of publications from a researcher. But we're actually working through it. We get our faculty administrators will tell us often of a new researcher arriving, and we will then work with them how best to get their publications in. So we are very pleased to hear about some of the improvements of the automated searching to actually make this a bit more automated and merging some of the, doing the searches of Scopus and Web of Science, sort of the federated searching. So we are now live with Pure at the centre of the hub. So we've got 2,200 profiles live. We've got 122,000 research outputs. We've got about 800 prizes and 1,700 activities. We've got a small number of student theses, non-Macquarie theses, in the system. We're actually waiting for the to go live on 5.13 to improvements with the student theses load, and that's when we'll load in all our Macquarie theses. So I thought that Roger would be, rather than me telling you about Pure, I was going to get Roger to do it. So hopefully this will work. Just the sound, I mean.
Oh, perfect. I need to drag him over to...
Okay.
Just 1 second.
Okay.
There he is. Let me just double check. I think we're good for the sound. It's on. Okay.
Now, how did you...
Well, we'll get it fixed in just a moment. Thanks for your patience. We did a sound check earlier.
Yeah.
We must have stepped on it. Can we try again? You hear the projector?
Oh, well, if it's too difficult.
What's funny, it just worked earlier. If I bring the mouse back over, I'll pause him. So you're...
What? I don't know. It's the sound. The sound's up.
Yeah, sounds all the way up. Oh, we hear it through the it's playing through the projector. It's odd hearing that.
So the sound is routed through the HDMI out, not through the headphones.
Okay, so I'll put it through the speaker.
So look, it's extraordinarily important to manage my personal research profile.
How many smart people does it take to figure out
Yeah.
some sound? There we go.
So look, it's extraordinarily important to manage my personal research profile, and having the ability to do that on my own is really quite wonderful. The ability to have in one place all of my research outputs, all of my research activities, and to showcase that in a multimedia way is really fantastic. It's important for us as researchers to be found online, and the Pure system provides an excellent way to do that. It provides us a single point of contact where an external person can identify us based on our research activity, our research interests, and our actual outputs. It's also important for potential students to find us. It's a great vehicle for them to be able to look for their subject of interest, search through the university and find relevant researchers that might be potential supervisors. It's also important for the members of the community and the public who are able to now see in a simple place our research and its impact. It's great in terms of, in our case, for people that suffer from motor neuron disease, who can find out the latest on the research that's going on in our program, but also for people that would like to donate to our research. So the Pure system provides us with a number of advantages that we didn't have previously. The key one of those being that there is a single truth to our research data. So we can now go to a single place where we have all of our research outputs held together. We can search not only our own information but also our colleagues. We can look across departments and across faculties as well. It becomes an excellent tool for searching out collaboration across the university. This is our opportunity as a researcher to have live, up-to-date information on our research profile. This is something that doesn't happen at other universities, and I think most of us know that, having come from other universities.
Yeah, you can just go back.
No problem. Can watch some interesting ads.
Yeah.
There we are.
Okay, thank you. So we thought that one of the reasons for the success of Pure is that we have high-level sponsorship. So Roger is one of our associate deans in our School of Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences, but our Deputy Vice-Chancellor Research was also key involved in sponsoring and promoting Pure Research Hub and trying to get engagement of researchers. So the benefits for our internal purposes. The data in Pure is now available for internal, operational and strategic purposes. The researchers are really engaged with their profiles and will report any errors or omissions. In the early days of the Pure project, they were saying, why isn't this old publication appearing in Pure? And then when we asked them about it, they said, oh no, it wasn't in the legacy system, but I want it in Pure now. So they were really finding, sort of like we should have made it up or something. Now we also hear, why isn't my book or my book chapter showing up in the portal? It was published yesterday, so why doesn't it appear? So, but having the researchers really engaged in it and putting their publications in as soon as they come in, it helps with compliance because, again, we have to do a number of reporting systems where we actually have to have a full collection of research publications for an author. So sometimes we had to actually, if they weren't adding their publications in or reporting them to the library previously, we had to go and find them retrospectively, which is always harder to do. So having them engaged, putting it in as it's published, means we can source PDFs, verify it, we can check things with the researcher. So we've actually found that we seem to be getting more publications in Pure in the last couple of years. So it's not that we are publishing more at Macquarie, but we're also finding that they are putting in more of the things that the extra types of publications, we're collecting those. And particularly in our Faculty of Arts, where we have a lot of non-traditional research outputs, they're putting in those other things into Pure. So by having the Pure system, it means that the library and research services, we're able to focus on the data collection and the auditing. And because we're working in Pure only, previously we had a lot of manual processes when we were exporting records from library system into research system. But because of the way the systems work together, we had to do a lot of extra manual work, creating external people in old systems. By having them all working in Pure means that we've reduced those manual processes. Our departmental administrators are now free to undertake data analysis assessment exercises. They're engaged in helping promote Pure. The Faculty of Arts have promoted a profile template where they actually say to researchers, this is what we want your profile to look like to appear, and they're getting people to enhance their profile. It provides a consistency of look and feel for the profiles across the faculty. It also promotes the non-traditional research output, which is particularly important for arts. As I said before, we're collecting more output types than before, theses, prizes, activities, things like that. We also are linking our publications are linked to awards, as these linkages are now known. There was a bit of difficulty getting it in on the importing on the legacy data, but going forward, having the researcher doing this work, they're the ones that know if a publication is linked to awards, so they can actually add that linkage right at the beginning. With the awards, our data is pushed from Pure to a finance system through an e-feed 3 times a day. So again, the two systems are kept in sync and up to date. This was not something we had in a previous system. We're also using Pure to do a lot of benchmarking exercises and performance metrics, or we're using the data out of Pure. We'll pull data from Pure, put it in Databank and use those for benchmarking exercises. So we've also had benefits for our external processes. We have a much richer and consistent data set, which will help us comply with external research assessment exercises. These exercises have to report on outputs published for normally the last 6 years for particular groups of researchers. So Pure has been instrumental to help with this. We've been using Pure to help push the rollout of research identifiers. Really, so the library staff are going through and promoting with new researchers and existing ones about the importance of identifiers. The importance of keeping your Scopus profile up to date. Have a look at it, your Web of Science, your PubMed, making sure you know what your profile looks like and get you, if you're the researcher, get them to change it. We've helped push ORCID, so promoting ORCID we've grown from about 1,000 ORCIDs have been added into newly created for Macquarie researchers in 10 months of promotion. So we now have 78% of our pure researchers have an ORCID. And so this has been, again, an amount of joint library and faculty promotion. We had drop-in clinics where we actually say to people, we'll come and help you how to put an ORCID into the system. But again, they would come and ask people about different things, about publications and other things to do with identifiers, Scopus IDs, all of that. So it actually helped us embed the library more into that, promote with researchers how to deal with your profile themselves. So with Pure, we're actually starting to use more seamless integrations with Scopus, SciVal, and Web of Science. We're finding some limitations in how this would work. So again, we'd be interested to see how we can get that better integration of that data in the future. We are using Pure will become de facto our repository. So we manage the open access compliance in Pure. Again, it allows us to report on compliance to see how we're going with it. And again, we get value from the community, the user community. So and so people report issues that we haven't or development, they put in requests, enhancements, what we like as well. So again, engaging with the community. So I'll pass you on back to Samira.
Okay, as Fiona said, there are many benefits to this system and we are really pleased to it. But we just wanted to have also one slide that will show some improvements we would like Pure to take into consideration. And I think we were very pleased yesterday when we saw a few of these points actually being addressed in your roadmap to coming for in 2019 and further. So I think some of these are also shared amongst many people and many users at Macquarie and in Australia as well when we are chatting with our colleagues. The first one that is obvious is reporting. I think we all wanted better reporting. So for Macquarie, the current solution, as Fiona said, is data warehouse because at the moment we are not using any Pure reports for any purposes. So we developed this solution using a package called Power BI. So it's quite flexible solution. So we take data instantly from Pure and update our reports, strategic and operational reports in Power BI. So that's obviously not a long-term solution. We needed something to start with, but we would like to use actually Pure reporting because we would like to reduce number of systems at Macquarie if possible, but if that's not addressed, then we'll keep going with this solution. So lack of integrated processes between modules. We would like a little bit more integration, for example, between outputs and person records. Automated harvesting needs to be a little bit more flexible. And the next one, being post-award manager, I really feel very happy about this one that is coming. So it's lack of workflows in awards module. So for us, it's awards is not linear process. Once an award is in Pure, we need multiple teams such as legal, ethics, and many other teams. I think in our case, it's 5 teams that have to work sometimes in parallel on one. So we can't just wait for one to finish the work and then take over. We need people at the same time to get this information, work in parallel so that we open an account for researchers as soon as we can. Another one is access control. We would like to see more flexibility in this because we have 5 faculties and we have a large number of administrative staff. So we would like to see more granularity in giving them this access so that they have a particular access for their faculty or their department, but not equal to central university research office access, for example, in award module, because we would like to put some comments that are only for the central research office, but not shared around. Ability to bulk upload, for example, classification schemes. We at Macquarie use quite a few classification schemes in keywords, and we would like to be able to upload them directly, to many number of records. And the final one, it's our national reporting, so we would like to use ERA module. So as I was saying before, we developed ERA module our own because we couldn't use ERA Pure module in 2018. So our next submission is 2021, so I'm hoping that we can have ERA module functional probably next year, if not this year, because we would like to make this process sustainable so that we actually can code our records as we go, and then in 2021 just submit this to the government rather than wait for 2020 and then rush into the submission. And the last, we wanted to give you our roadmap as well. So just to present what we are planning to do at Macquarie with our systems. So firstly, to continue evaluating research activity annually so that we can improve our benchmarking because I guess everywhere, but in Australia, we are very small research market, so we do tend to benchmark ourselves, our performance between universities, so we would like to invest a little bit more into that. We are planning to use Pure ERA module, providing that is functional, as an ongoing submission. Also, the library would like to investigate further integrations with SciWall. I think we do a little bit of that, but because we've been so busy with implementing so many systems, we haven't really fully explored all the integrations, so that would be next on our roadmap. We also use a system called Infonetica for ethics, and we would like to see this integration between Infonetica and Pure. And I think that's also on the roadmap, which would be great to see as well. And integrate Pure awards with contracts management systems. So as I was saying, that program is currently running, and we are hoping to do so by the end of this year, because the entire research hub will stop, or the implementation will stop by the end of 2018. And finally, develop further data warehouse if Pure reporting is not fully developed to meet our needs. So I think that's the end. And if you have any questions, Fiona and I have a few minutes now, or you can talk to us after the session.
Thank you. No, please. We have 10 minutes for questions, so ample time. It's the first session in the morning, so let's get some interaction. Any questions? Who wants to be first? In the back?
Coming over, excuse me.
He's
There it
coming.
is.
So why do you think your faculty were particularly engaged in getting their information up there?
I think it was because previously with the old, we had a library, a university website that, and on the department, there were department pages which had pages around profiles in, and which were varying across the university, across whether they were up to date. They might have, 5 publications, your key publications. Some didn't have any, things like that. So there was a university website redesign, and I think at that point it was decided that they wouldn't have departmental pages or profile pages on the website. And so I think by having Pure, we were saying the portal will be your researcher profile. Now that will be where all the data is. So in there'll be department pages that will say, here are our staff, and it will list the professors. And if you, click here for more information about Professor so-and-so, you'll click there and then it will go across to Pure. So I think it was actually because people wanted to actually have a profile, and so to have a profile with data in it, they had to engage with Pure. And so I think that was the key thing. And there was communication out to the faculty by the faculties themselves saying, you need to engage with your profile. I think that was the key thing. If it was the library saying you've got to do it, research services, they wouldn't have done it. But for them, they saw they were getting a profile and their faculty was saying, you have to have it.
Here, then one over there.
Hi. Other than the website, did you guys use this data for any annual reporting, like AMIs for the faculty? If you did you have any resistance from the faculty? And if you did not, do you use a different system? In which case, do the faculty have resistance in entering information into 2 systems?
There are mostly the reporting systems, the data is running out of Pure and the faculty is using it. Our faculty, I'm not sure what reporting system you're talking about, the reporting exercise you're talking about. We do have our business and economics accreditation reports were in a different system. And so again, they're moving we're looking at getting that data into Pure. I'm not sure I'm understanding the question.
And maybe this is a US thing,
Yeah.
but there's annual reporting for faculty to get any increases. So it's almost like not a performance review, essentially.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's,
Yeah.
they have to indicate everything that they've accomplished, and then
Yep.
they get an increase.
Yeah. The research.
We do have similar requirements, but that's within the university, it's internally. So we have something called research active and research productive. So each faculty, we have 5 faculties, have their own definition of research active and research productive. So I'll just give you an example. You may have an indicator as 5 publications in 5 years, plus external income, plus supervision. So that criteria is given by each faculty, and it depends on discipline, for example. I think it varies from Faculty of Arts to medicine and so on, because they have different requirements, such as traditional and non-traditional research, or external funding, internal funding, and so on. So they give this criteria, but we take data from Pure and then benchmark outside. As I was saying, we use this package Power BI, and then we create reports for each faculty against that criteria, so they can monitor that. But they can log in and instantly see. As long as Pure record is updated, the report will be updated as well. And we couldn't find that flexibility currently in Pure, so that's why we went outside.
In back, and then do we have another question somewhere for our mic runners? Okay, well, raise your hand if you think of something in the meantime.
Hi. Sorry. Hi. Thanks for your presentation. I'm from Elsevier, so I haven't been involved in, the tender with Macquarie getting that Pure. So it's really good to see how you're putting it to use. My question for you is I wanted to see if you could elaborate on the ERA module and why you didn't feel it was ready, and also whether, in terms of the experience of some of the other schools who submitted using the module, and what you want to see for the next one. Yeah.
Okay, so as I was just saying, we use Pure as a source system for our data, but actually production of XML is against very strict Australian government guidelines. And the system does perform, for those who know ERA module, it has two functions. One is to look into business rules by the ARC and give us verification whether we comply with those rules. And the second one is actually to take the data and produce XML as an output to submit to the government. So I think probably, yeah, our submissions started sometimes in 2017, the preparations, because it's a very long exercise. That's a reporting on 6 years of your data across. So publications, all major outputs, as well as external income and also personnel. So it's a really large amount of data. Everything has to be checked. So we started this within Pure itself. And then we were hoping that the ERA module will be delivered by December 2017, because the submission deadline is March 2018. And by December, we realized that we don't have the module ready. And for our universities, ERA is very important. There are no negotiations about the deadline. So we felt a little bit, how can I say, nervous about this. And we started to develop our own tool in parallel, because it's a big reputational risk. I mean, we just could not submit this data. So we tried again in January, I think, to use ERA module, and it wasn't again ready. It just wasn't functional for us. So at that point, we just decided just to abandon ERA module and take our own solution and submit for year 2018. So basically, it just wasn't working for us at that point of time, and we couldn't take any risks in terms of data compliance and the submission.
Any more questions? We have another 2 or 3 minutes at least. Well, I have a question. I think you talked a little bit about rolling out to your researchers and getting them on board. You mentioned having the faculties be really involved in the rollout. Were there any specific events or campaigns, or was there kind of a communications or marketing collaboration? I'm from marketing, so I'm interested in this. You know, how was that something that worked across campus, and could you think of maybe one event or one thing that was particularly effective?
I could just, yeah, maybe you can add. I think very late in the piece, we brought in change management group, which I think was like, I wish we did that earlier in the piece. And actually they took the ownership of all communications. And also they organized faculty days. So each faculty would nominate a week, for example, where there'll be drop-in sessions for academics. So they would sit with another team member with their laptop anytime during the day in that week in that faculty. And I think that worked reasonably well, because people had the flexibility to go in and actually sign up and do a training quickly, one-to-one. And I think that was very effective, because you can choose your own time and just go there for 10 minutes or half an hour, depending on your skills, and spend that much time to actually learn Pure.
Yeah, I think the bringing on the change management people was really important, but I think also the communications team. So they brought in a lot of consistency of message around Pure about what was going to be in it, because previously there'd been a little bit of, you know, different messages going out. And so consistency of message, consistency of documentation. We've got a lot of help guides. Some of the videos that we showed of Roger, there's a whole series of them. Again, it was like really consistency of communication and being just re-communicating that Pure is coming, you're going to have to do something about it. And even things like we said that we gave people 2 months to go into their profile. Well, of course, you know, there were people with 2 days to go that hadn't been in their profile, not surprisingly. But they would actually be we were getting information from Central to going out to each of the faculties saying 50% of your researchers have looked at Pure. 75% of researchers have looked into Pure. And then, so I think we've sometimes got to 97%. But again, consistency of message, communication, and communication, and communication. And I think that was the real thing that got Pure into the system, embedded people to understand that they needed to engage with it.